Welcome to another episode of the Crypto Spin Through podcast. So, be aware that Etherdelta is possibly hacked and your funds just might be at risk if you try to log into Etherdelta. Supposedly, some hackers got into Etherdelta and put down some kind of JavaScript that's whenever you enter your login information, gives it right to them and allows them to flush out all your coins. So be aware about that. Apparently there's a possible way to redeem your coins now. I saw a few Reddit threads about it, but I don't know how well they work out yet. So if you're using Etherdelta, you should really search around and see if that solution has been working out for people and redeem your coins as fast as possible, since Etherdelta is very compromised right now. Start of the episode PSA. So into the news with kind of a Bitcoin Civil War segment. Two big really pieces comes together to show that the animosity between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash is escalating because Coinbase has halted Bitcoin Cash transaction amidst the accusations of insider trading. So people have been suspecting that insider trading was happening before Bitcoin Cash was released on Coinbase, because the patterns of accumulation kind of tipped people off. And later it came up that there was a post on Reddit of an account a few days ago saying he knows someone who works at Coinbase that told him Bitcoin Cash was being supported very soon. And is that by now that Reddit post probably deleted, but it's evidence enough to speculate a little bit that maybe it was a sincere post that didn't realize that constituted as insider trading. So trading is resumed now, but no news if anyone's faced consequences. Kind of interesting that the post of Reddit surfaced and how hard people dug within hours of this little thing coming to light, and all the things they were claiming were taking place. It's kind of funny though, because among some of the factual stuff, there's always lines and lines of conspiracy theories along with it, claiming this was all totally calculated and such. But I think I said Monday actually that I 100% saw Bitcoin Cash being supported soon, and lo and behold, 2 days later, Bitcoin Cash is supported. So I wonder if Ripple's gonna have the same experience soon. We'll just have to see. Next up is evidence emerges of CNBC collusion with Roger Ver. Of course, this is also a topic that's really making this Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash civil war heat up, because you could say the evidence is pretty compelling that there's some little conflict of interest being unbiased here with CNBC, because some Twitter investigators have unraveled some relationships among the people involved here. It was a husband and wife couple that were the primary suspects here, and they were using their connections to really promote a slanted view of Bitcoin and overly hype up Bitcoin Cash in a way. So I don't know if anything solid will come for this, because crypto is still relatively small, and even if this is definitely a problem, I don't see any kind of legal recourse anytime soon. But in the future, maybe. An analyst makes a Bitcoin prediction that it'll become the world's most valuable currency. So the prediction is that Bitcoin will reach up to $400,000 per coin, and that's pretty much insanity. Maybe in a very long time, if the proof of work machine doesn't collapse under Bitcoin. But the reason cited was basically scarcity, and that's agreeable that scarcity is definitely one of the prime drivers of Bitcoin's price, as more and more coins get lost or just go unused because people's mentality is just to hold instead of actually utilizing it as a currency. Next up, France wants the G20 nations to sit down and discuss some Bitcoin regulation. And whenever people hear regulation, they're all frightened, and it's not too... Can't blame people for being frightened. However, France has not the worst Bitcoin regulation. They're relatively permissive compared to most other Western nations. It'd be interesting to see how Japan stacks up against them, but there could be a worse country leading the charge for regulation, because everyone knows regulation's inevitable, and putting it off is the worst thing to do, because you want to kind of attack the regulation on your own terms rather than have it hit you with these super restrictive things by people who have not a single clue about anything in the crypto market. So it's not too terrible that France is really pushing for this, but we'll have to see what kind of comes out once all these countries kind of sit down, if they even do that, and work together to create some kind of unified international regulation, since crypto is very international, and that's one of its strengths, I think. Next up is Tezos founders hit with a fourth lawsuit. The suit's for securities fraud. So these guys are basically done. More and more lawyers are looking for that big payout. And I know they originally raised like $252 million, and that was back in the summer when it was only worth like what, 5,000, 10,000 at most. That was probably nearly half $500 million to $1 billion. And these lawyers are looking out for that money. They're trying to get their cut of that for being the one leading the case. And as Bitcoin rises, expect more and more of these lawsuits to come out, but not just for Tezos, but for any ICO that's failing to deliver kind of the investors' expectations. So what's going to happen to these guys? Who knows? The project's going to be dead after this. Hopefully everyone gets their money back, but it's a 100% dead project at this point. Hedge fund Pro Miller is 50% invested in Bitcoin. So that's something you won't hear from a hedge fund often, that they're half their assets is in Bitcoin. But he decided to go against the grain back in 2013 and roll with some Bitcoin. At the time, it was only 5% of his portfolio, and as Bitcoin appreciated, it grew more and more naturally on his own. Even if it did mention that at times he'd buy in a bit more and more. And it's kind of interesting how someone took an entire different path, considering most people who were considered financial experts like Buffett were calling Bitcoin out for being useless and overinflated, as it just kept growing and growing despite these accusations. Overstock. So Overstock's TZERO ICO has supposedly stalled in the eyes of many, but actually they're keeping their cards close, and only accredited investors are allowed to look at their sales white paper and be involved with this process anyway. So it's completely fair considering their position. They're already an established company. They don't really need to bother with pulling up a bunch of smaller guppy kind of investors. They can just deal with a large venture capitalist if they want, or the hedge funds, whatever they want. They have their pick, but could set a bad precedent considering if more and more already mature companies go this route, then they're really avoiding what crypto has been enabling by kind of allowing people to do their own due diligence and invest in whatever they decide to at the ground floor rather than being completely locked out. And of course, the flip side of that is people have lost as much as they gained in some cases because there's total scams. But I'm just concerned that regulation will make it too impossible for companies to kind of crowd sell ICO rather than have they'll prefer having that small pool like VCs already is rather than crowd sell ICOs if the legislation's not there to kind of make both options have their pros and cons equally, rather than what will probably end up being the law being more slanted to accredited investors because less risk, at least perceived risk. And next up is Youbit. It's gone. Not to be confused with Youbit. Pretty popular exchange. And when I first read the headline, I actually did get them confused because my brain automatically went to Youbit instead of Youbit. But Youbit is the Korean exchange, and it's filed for bankruptcy because hackers wiped out its assets. So, not surprising, because what happens when an exchange is hacked is it's over. It's just over after a deadly hack. Most exchanges will never recover, and ones that do have typically went to do shady things to keep themselves afloat. So, some speculation is this hack was caused by North Korea, mainly because there has been a big interest in cryptocurrencies by North Korea, and it's not too far-fetched of an idea that North Korean hackers are targeting exchange so they could use bitcoins to circumvent any kind of sanctions and such. But right now it's speculation to take with a grain of salt, but it also makes sense in being speculated upon. That in the end, that it really doesn't matter because this exchange is gone. People lost their money, and it looks like they said they're going to try to refund people if they can, but there's always low expectation with these kind of situations, that you typically don't get everything you had in full. BitPay has done some things to get community ire, and in particular started charging 2 fees instead of 1. So typically you only have one fee to pay for your Bitcoin to be sent across the network and such, no matter where you are, whether you're using your own wallet or an exchange wallet. But BitPay has decided to have a minor fee and transaction fee, 2 fees that you have to pick up. Kind of insane that they think people are going to stand for paying 2 fees when they can take steps to mitigate the price by either, I'm pretty sure they haven't adopted SegWit yet, so doing that or pulling their transactions and lowering fees that way so they all get sent out at once. But just kind of insane that they have 2 fees and think they can remain competitive, forcing people to pay double. Estonia. So Estonia is getting closer and closer to being a place where a national cryptocurrency exists. Why? Well, Estonia has been laying out the conceptual groundwork for their national coin, and it mainly centers around their e-residency, which allows a person to have a government-issued ID and establish a company in Estonia functioning under EU rules. It alternatively can be used for their digital IDs network and maintenance of that network. So there's 2 major things right there. And it'll be interesting. I actually think this could kind of have an uptick in their e-residency if they're super permissive with crypto. And it'll be interesting to see if they actually do launch a national coin. They can join the ranks of Venezuela, I think, with their Venezuela's old petro-backed crypto that supposedly is going to come out. So the SEC suspends a crypto firm stock after a big price boost. They were frozen because information that was published on the companies frozen because of information published and possible insider trading. So, actually, I had a discussion about this that will be released soon, but it's not surprising in a way. The SEC has been out for blood, and people who are running afoul with the law will definitely feel the wrath if they involve any kind of U.S. investor or a U.S. based anything. It's a real risk if you're not acting correctly. And the stock here is frozen until January. So it saw 1,800% rise because of this whole crypto craze, but I guess anyone who's suspended in this stock is not too happy. Cryptocurrency hedge fund was also hit with a class action lawsuit for being pretty fraudulent. Security fraud, actually. They really didn't try to do anything with the company. It seemed like just a bunk company that they were just trying to collect money and run away with. So that's why they were hit with securities fraud, because their company didn't actually do anything. It raised money to steal the money. And like I said above, expect some wrath from the SEC to come if you're not acting right, then with time, these kind of situations will get cleaned up more and more. But right now, they're going to be running home free a little bit more for the coming months. But 2019, I feel like that's when the regulation's going to hit the hardest, and maybe even mid 2018, but who knows. Right now, people are kind of playing it by ear, and I think it will really depend on how Bitcoin functions. If Bitcoin experiences a major crash, the regulation will come sooner than later. So 2x is back. A new SegWit 2x fork is scheduled December 28th. And, this scaling debate is resurrected. Kind of funny that they decide to resurrect it as there's a million Bitcoin forks just coming at it for no reason. It's like people getting free dividends for having Bitcoin in a way. But expect to get, obviously, your 1-to-1 Bitcoin to 2x that all forks give out. But this one's also including a proportional number from Satoshi's stash. So you'll get a little bit more than 1-to-1. Morgan Stanley, hedge funds. Analyst has said that hedge funds have poured $2 billion into crypto in 2017. So more and more hedge funds are getting confident in crypto, with 84 are being established in 2017 alone. I feel like not all of those are going to make it out of 2018 as legislation kind of clamps down on them, but we'll see what happens, especially once some correction happens in the market and it's not straight growth forever, because that's unsustainable. The only question is, when do you hit the peak of that unsustainability? Question no one has. And finally, we're ending with Litecoin. So this has been pretty big drama too. Litecoin's creator has sold his stake to avoid conflicts of interest. So people are really up in arms because they're saying Charlie has no skin in the game anymore. And they feel like he's abandoning the whole project since he doesn't have any his Litecoin stash is significantly lessened, which he might as well have no Litecoins. I'm gonna kind of go against the grain here and say I understand him, and he just got tired of people accusing him of manipulating the market, because he is a very prominent voice in crypto. So I can see why people thought that him tweeting certain things is him taking advantage of the market. But his timing was pretty bad. People think he's colluding with Bitcoin Cash, and there's overall bad timing. And some are saying that he shouldn't announce it at all, but I think it was worthy enough for an announcement, because you'd want to know that, and it probably would have been worse in the future if he didn't reveal that he's just sold a significant stake of his Litecoins, and that would be detrimental for the long term. So might as well get it all out now. And that's it for today's episode. Do me a solid favor and rate the podcast as high as possible. That helps out a lot. So right now, before you close out, or as you're closing out, rate it. Give me a raving review, and you'll have my eternal gratitude, because I got some big stuff coming next week. Well, I got some good stuff coming this weekend, but even better stuff coming next weekend. So stay tuned. I'm changing my entire content plan just for you guys, because the thing that gets published next weekend will be big, like super big. And the thing this weekend will just be kind of a tease, because next weekend's big thing is going to be briefly mentioned, if I remember, in the interview that I'm publishing this weekend, and totally destroying my content plan. But I think it's in the best interest of you guys for me to kind of switch it up real quick and post an episode for the remainder weekends of this month. So, like I said, rate the podcast on wherever you're listening to, and give me a good review. And you'll have my eternal gratitude. Do that as soon as you're done listening. And in anticipation for the next 2 interview episodes, you'll be grateful that you did. So, see you next time. See you possibly Monday. I'm thinking I'm going to have to do the next episode early, and it'll get done. But just be looking out this weekend and next weekend in particular, because it's going to be huge.